A storm is sweeping across Europe's ports. In Rotterdam, Antwerp, and Vlissingen, dozens of tons of cocaine are seized every year, but a large share of the containers slips past the authorities. Behind this lies a network that has perfected corruption, logistics, and violence, the Mocro Mafia. It is considered a Moroccan-Dutch cartel and is estimated at times to have controlled around 1/3 of the European cocaine market. Its roots go back to the 1990s when Moroccan immigrants in Amsterdam, Antwerp, and Rotterdam began smuggling cannabis. Out of these early structures, a billion-euro cocaine empire emerged, cooperating with Latin American cartels, infiltrating ports, and, thanks to encrypted communication, remaining largely untouchable for a long time. This documentary tells the story of the Mocro Mafia's development, its key players, methods, and the consequences for Europe's security. From gang wars in Amsterdam and Antwerp to assassinations of lawyers and journalists and threats against top politicians. In the 1970s and 1980s, many young men from Morocco came to Western Europe, working in industry and in the ports, and some used their contacts to smuggle hashish from North Africa. Amsterdam developed into a hub for the cannabis trade. In the 1990s, the structures became more professional. Families invested in real estate, restaurants and companies as cover, networks spread to Belgium and France, and gained access to major ports like Antwerp. From cannabis to cocaine, with growing cocaine consumption in Europe and rising production in Latin America, the shift to cocaine trafficking began in the 2000s. Spanish ports were initially important, but from around 2010, Belgium and the Netherlands became the main entry points for cocaine into Europe. The Mocro Mafia used its existing routes and contacts, negotiated directly with South American suppliers, and purchased in large quantities. Unlike classic mafia organizations, it is not a rigid system with a godfather at the top, but a flexible network of loosely connected groups. Moroccan and Dutch gangs, former cannabis traffickers, hooligans. They recruited dock workers, sailors, truck drivers, and corrupt customs officers who, for large sums, diverted containers and bypassed inspections. The turning point, the 200-kilo affair. In 2012, about 200 kilograms of cocaine were stolen in Antwerp from a container linked to a Moroccan-Dutch group. The loss triggered a spiral of betrayal, kidnappings, torture, and murder. Shootings occurred in Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Antwerp, and Morocco. Police and investigators spoke of a gang war with over 100 dead. The Mocro Mafia became synonymous with extreme violence. Young contract killers called taglias received thousands of euros per job. Not only rivals, but also uninvolved people were caught in the crossfire. For example, a 17-year-old girl in Antwerp with family ties to a clan. The Mocro Mafia operates as a flexible network without a fixed boss. Leading figures work in small circles using changing teams and cooperation partners. If one is arrested, others move up. This makes the system resilient. Its strength lies in controlling the supply chain, from ordering in Colombia to container transport to distribution in Europe. Belgium and the Netherlands have overtaken Spain as the main cocaine entry points. In Antwerp alone, more than 65 tons of cocaine were seized in 2020. Despite massive seizures, the overall volume keeps rising. A major factor is corrupt port workers and customs officers who, for 5 to 6-figure sums, move containers, manipulate cameras, or leak information. Violence is part of the business model, to intimidate competitors, punish betrayal, and collect debts. At the same time, the violence increasingly targets the state and the media. The murders of lawyer Dirk Wiersum, 2019, and journalist Peter R. de Vries, 2021, are directly linked to investigations and reporting surrounding the network and the Marengo trial. There were even kidnapping threats against Prime Minister Mark Rutte and Crown Princess Catharina Amalia, a direct signal of attack on the state itself. The profits are systematically laundered via shell companies, real estate in Europe and Morocco, restaurants, transport firms, and other seemingly legal businesses. The Netherlands, with its open economy and modern financial systems, is seen as an attractive location for money laundering. Enjoyed this episode? Give it a like and subscribe to the channel. More crime docs coming soon. Don't miss out. The most prominent name is Ridouan Taghi. Born in 1977, the Dutchman of Moroccan origin was arrested in Dubai in 2019 and in 2024 was sentenced to life imprisonment in the Marengo trial in Amsterdam. The judges described him as the undisputed leader of a murder organization, a well-oiled killing machine. During the proceedings, among others, the lawyer of a Crown witness and the brother of a Crown witness were murdered. Despite his imprisonment, Taghi is still considered influential. His closest confidant, Saeed Razouki, was responsible for logistics and financial flows and also received a life sentence. Another important actor is Othman El Balouti, a Belgian logistics specialist of Moroccan origin who lived in Dubai for a long time. He is accused of having organized cocaine shipments of up to 10 tons. He was arrested in Turkey in 2024 and extradited to Belgium. Under the umbrella of a super cartel, the Mocro Mafia cooperated with Latin American cartels, the Irish Kinahan family, and the Italian Camorra. This alliance controlled a large part of the European cocaine market for a time. International raids, especially in 2022 and 2023, led to numerous arrests within this network, primarily in Dubai, Spain, Belgium, and the Netherlands. For internal communication, the Mocro Mafia used specialized crypto phones and services such as EncroChat, Sky ECC, and later Anom. These systems were used to coordinate container movements, money transfers, and murder contracts. The major breakthrough for investigators came when European and Canadian authorities were able to crack Sky ECC and other services. Millions of messages were analyzed, hundreds of suspects arrested, torture chambers and so-called torture containers discovered in the Netherlands, and murder plots against politicians and journalists uncovered. Beyond that, the network uses modern technology such as drones to scout ports, fake identities for travel to Dubai, Morocco, or Latin America, and cryptocurrencies for money laundering and anonymized payments. At the same time, media and social networks are deliberately used to intimidate rivals, spread threats, and stage their own power. The attacks on lawyers, journalists, and politicians forced the Dutch state to tighten its security architecture. Special protection concepts for the judiciary and media, deployment of military police for personal protection, tougher detention conditions for high-risk prisoners like Taghi. At the European level, investigations were pooled. Within Europol operations, such as Desert Light, leading figures of the super cartel were arrested, and millions in cash, luxury cars, and properties were seized. Belgium appointed a special prosecutor for drug crime and reinforced security measures in the ports, while the Netherlands invested in scanners, personnel, and anti-corruption programs. At the same time, experts point to lessons from Italy. Repression alone is not enough. Mafia organizations there were only really weakened when tough laws, Crown witness programs, and the consistent confiscation of assets were combined with social measures in problem districts. Between 2024 and 2025, further blows were dealt to the network, including the arrest and extradition of Othman El Balouti and increased checks on all containers from Latin America, Sky Clean 2. Morocco has intensified cooperation with EU authorities and dismantled several cocaine labs with suspected Mocro connections. At the same time, other groups, such as the Ndrangheta, The Albanian Mafia and the Kinahan gang are trying to fill the gaps in the market created by the arrests. The Mocro Mafia is losing strength, but remains dangerous. If you enjoyed today's video, drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The Mocro Mafia is one of Europe's biggest criminal challenges. A loosely organized, highly flexible network controls a significant share of the cocaine market through corrupt ports, bribed officials, modern technology, and brutal violence. The arrests of Ridouan Taghi, Saeed Razouki, members of the super cartel, and the access to encrypted communications show no cartel is untouchable. But as long as cocaine consumption in Europe remains high and ports continue to be a weak point, new actors will move into the gaps that emerge. Europe therefore faces a double task. On the one hand, it must fight the drug trade through international cooperation, anti-corruption measures, financial investigations, and tough action against those pulling the strings. On the other hand, it must dry up the social breeding ground from which such careers emerge, where lack of prospects, poverty, and exclusion dominate. The Mocro Mafia is not just a cartel, it is a mirror of the global drug economy and a wake-up call for Europe's security and social policy.